Hello, we are live now. Okay, so we can start. Shivku, let's start with the session. And today we have a full house. Shivku, Shashank, Jijo, Ravi, and I am there. And it's possible one or more faculty might join in. Okay, but okay. I think problem of plenty is still fine. It is still better than having problem of not having anyone available. Great. So Ravi, you were discussing how was the paper?
So I have only gone through the DILR section, and
Okay.
it is a paper in which the thing that we keep speaking about, selection of sets, is very important, and I think this is a paper that outrightly points towards that particular statement, because I think there's a lot of discussion happening in the test series group as well about I wasted a lot of time in the hospitals wala set. Okay, now that hospital wala set is a typical looking arrangement kind of a set, which is very lucrative on the outset. But once you get into it, there is a two levels of number logic that you have to crack, and then it becomes a little difficult. So in that sense, I felt the paper was balanced in DILR. Other sections I haven't seen much.
Okay.
So
Okay, just to add
actually,
to Shivku, yeah.
if you look at the overall paper, compared to the last year's CAT, the overall paper is more tougher, right? So, what I think two sections people have fallen short of. What I mean, if you were to use the benchmark as 2024, both LRDI as well as verbal, people have gone less than what they would have got at equivalent percentiles last year in 2024. Whereas in the case of quant, it seems to have gone about 3 questions easier. So broadly, this is what it is. And at equivalent percentiles, we are almost about 10 to 12 marks lesser than what it would have been in CAT 2024. So definitely a tougher mock for sure. And I think we'll kind of go into each of these sections. Shashank, can you just play the slides?
So these are last year's scores. So 2110.
CAT wala hai.
Right. Now this is 2024 and CDC Pro 2 comparison. So if you see at lower value at 85, we are accurate. At higher value, it's a little bit of difference. If you see CDC Pro 99.5, 91, but as you go low at a lower percentile, it matches the numbers. So 57, 90 is similar. 85 is exactly same. 80.
But Shashank, when you say accurate, I think that's a wrong word to use because what is CAT level? So if I kind of look at the last 3 years, if we go back to the previous slide, just once, look at where is CAT 2023 as compared to CAT 2024 and even CAT 2022. Right. So there is no such things that one could say that CAT 2025 is going to be X. So what one has to look at is, if I look at this particular paper in itself, what it kind of tells me is that for getting the very high percentile, the barriers the student had to make, the challenges they had to carry would have been much higher than something that, if I cleanly look at what was, for example, if I go back to slide, what was 80th percentile in 2024? That's about 34. 2023 is about 34 marks now. This one is.
Sir, can I interrupt you? So, sir, if you look at the data of 2022 and CDC Pro 2, it is very close to that. Very close. So 93.4 and 91, 84 and 83. So this paper is not similar to 2024. This paper was similar to 2022. The values are very close to 2022 as compared to 2024.
See, ultimately, the way I always look at the paper is, it does not matter whether it is marking CAT 24, 23, 22, 21 or 2018. It doesn't matter to me. End of the day, to me, there was a paper in front of me. Have I done justice to my attempt in this paper? Have I picked up the right questions to attempt? Have I identified the right sets to attempt, and within the set, which question not to attempt? Similarly in quant and similarly in English. So if I have done justice to my abilities, then I've done well in the paper. Because as Jijo said, the level of difficulty will keep varying. If we can just go to the previous slide again, Shashank, you look at this. 99.5 percentile in CAT 23 was 84.5 and CAT 21 was 107 marks. So we are talking about such a huge variation that it is pointless to talk of a level of CAT. There's a huge variation, and which is why as long as we have a paper which is within this range, I'm okay with it. And in some paper you'll have easy quant, some will have difficult quant. Similarly, some will have easy verbal, difficult verbal. All so that if I look at, as Jijo says, the paper a section can be easy, medium, difficult, and there are 3 sections. So we have 9 possible combinations at least. And if you can split the level of difficulty a little more, also the number of combinations go up significantly. So as long as you are in those one of those 9 combinations within the same, it does not matter. And as a student, I would only look at saying, have I done the right, have I attempted the paper the correct way or not? And what are the learnings I have to carry from here to the next paper?
Yeah, to add on to what GP is saying. So when you look at these scores are scale scores. Technically speaking, in this, let's say 4 years, we have 12 papers. Right, slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. I cannot say, for example, if I even look at 2024, some would say that there is a sort of a level of difficulty difference in a particular section from slot number 1 to slot number 2 to slot number 3. So what is very important is, if this was CAT, if this was CAT, did I make the right decision or did I go with any pre-decided notion? Was I completely hoping on one particular section to pull my score, and that did betray me? What was I open-minded? Did I get stuck in question? Did I make bad decisions? How many syllabus? I think independently looking at this, if this was CAT, and this could very well be CAT. Who's saying that there is no particular level of difficulty that CAT is designing anyways? I mean, I don't think even CAT knows what level of difficulty turn out to be. Right. So the in most of the cases, as the test creators, we assume the test is going to be X, but eventually when you see the responses, the story is always very different. And I'm sure that GP, I think Savitija said that don't mention this, but I'm going to open this conversation with what GP said before we started this. That GP said the DLR was very easy. So it was very straightforward. I mean, eventually from what one experience as a paper, as a level of difficulty, and what someone experiences is going to be very different. So yes, at the end of the day, basically what we can look at this is that this is basically CAT. That this is it is bang on with some CAT in the past, and like always CDC is, and therefore this could be a very high level quality test. Yeah.
Jijo, I think it is also about the evolution of the type of questions over the last 3, 4, 5 years of the CAT. I mean, if you look at VARC itself, the VA part, 3, 4 different types of questions have come. Some in 2023, I guess, sentence completion came out of the blue. No one was practicing it. So probably people would have thought, "Ki yaar, ye out of the blue aa gaya, mere ko aayega ki nahi aayega?" The paragraph completion of it. But after a couple of years practice, now people may find that to be the easiest question. Maybe, I don't know.
They would definitely find it easier than parajumbles.
Right? 2 years ago, mean, median and mode के कोई भी questions नहीं आते थे. In 2021 या उससे पहले, mean, median and mode probably 2013 या उससे पहले आए होंगे. But over the last 8 years, they did not appear. But over the last 3, 4 years, it is consistently there in one of the sets in DILR, at least in one of the slots. So people are prepared now. Now, if they see a question based on a mean, median, or mode kind of a concept or a frequency distribution, they must find it easier. So it is totally dependent on if you. It is not fair to compare what would have happened in CAT 2021 versus what could have happened in this mock. I think absolutely on point, GP sir, is that मेरे सामने paper है. How well did I do? What did I think I know and made a mess of it? What did I think I don't know and made a mess of it? And what things could I have done better? That is the only takeaway from the mock. Not the score is not a takeaway from the mock, to my mind, because no one is going to give you admissions on the basis of what you score on what you score in these mocks.
Yeah. Chalo, we'll discuss DILR little by later. Let's continue. Let's start with the first section. Section wise. Okay, this is interesting. And
this is the overall section wise percentile.
Yeah.
So for someone, GP sir, for whom CAT 2024 was the first attempt or the first time they were looking at CAT. They may feel they would have felt excruciating pain while solving DILR in this mock, because CAT 2024 was one of the easiest out there in terms of DILR as a section. But someone who has been analyzing the mocks, or who has started with the intention that we will go through all the PYQs of the last 5-6 years, will be able to understand there are varying levels of difficulty, and you cannot stick to probably one level of difficulty that
Yeah,
everyone can. So
that's right.
that is where, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll come to DILR, but just a couple of things out here. I think this particular paper or section of DILR was as usual about ensuring you don't do set number 2 and 3. Set 1, 4, 5, if you picked them up, you would have done fairly well in this section. And I'm not saying 2, 3 are not doable. 2 was a little difficult because many students would not have seen this kind of a data set. 3 was a trap, I would say. Set number 3 was a kind of set that people will pick up and waste a lot of time. It is not undoable, it is definitely doable, but the very fact that you have to fill up 9 cells and you have to look at multiple things, and there's this number of patients and there's a discharge also, and none of the choices are going to be helpful to you. Tell you very clearly that time lega ho jayega. And which is why when if the students look at my overview, which I recorded a couple of days ago, my starting point was my order of preference, or the way I attempted the paper was set 1, 4, 5, and then 2 and 3 I would look at them. But I need to do 1, 4, 5 first. But okay, let's get started with bubble, and then we'll come to the other 2 sections also.
All right. So if it was if I just glance through the last 4 years, comparing verbal across the percentile ranks here, assuming of course this is a representation that we have, which would be two things to say, that the data that we have would not be 3 lakhs, of course, but it's still is good enough sample space to figure out what likely is going to happen in the actual CAT as well. So here is probably, I think that's what I say. If I look at verbal, if I look at score distribution, it's probably the closest that I can find is maybe 23, with about 1 question tougher. So it could be one of those difficult start in CAT 2023 is probably the closest. And if I could look at the next chart, I think you can clearly tell the stories here. Obviously, the first 4 are reading comprehension, and the next is the VA. Again, if I look at CDC Pro 1 to CDC Pro 2, the VA story is this. I think, again, you had a very challenging VA in this particular test, which explains the reason as to why you had those issues with respect to the score. If, for example, the VA was maybe 1 or 2 questions easy, you will probably see this is getting sort of very close. The RC story is more or less the same. You've got kind of easy questions everywhere, and then the VA story is this. Okay. Now you had, if I start with reading comprehension, I think that people completely messed up the last. I think the first RC was on factual truth and subjective truth. Now that passage has got our flesh can get grade level, which is talks about how dense it is. That it had a grade about 17.9. So when I'm sure that when somebody starts reading the particular passage, the first paragraph or second paragraph, it would have been very painful to figure out what's happening, right? So that would have been one of the challenges. And within that, there were sort of a couple of questions. Look at question number 3. Accuracy is very low. So you had people falling for some particular stuff, the trap. I have obviously explained this in very detail. The question, passage number 2 was probably kind of easier. It talks about competition and antitrust, the platform like Google, Apple, if they are there, and again, for example, you've got one question which probably 87% of the students got the question correct, which is question number 6, but yet still struggle with a few. I think so. And then if I look at passage number 3, which is about the brown bat evolution, and then you've got 2 questions which is very tough. 2 questions turn out to be easy. And then across the board, the last passage one, liberalism. I think the problem with last passage on liberalism was there are too many thoughts. The passage starts with what happened in early 19th century, goes on to talk about what happened in early 19th century France, then gets into what happened in Spain, what later happened in France, then goes into what happened in liberalism in the UK. There were multiple perspectives that is thrown. And the question, the way in which the options were framed was, for example, there was a question which says, what is a shared project of all these different the liberalism views? All is shared project, and only the three options were pinpointing somebody's specific view, which is not connected to everything. So I think what I could, and I could also see one thing with respect to reading comprehension. The moment the passage is the option is framed differently than the passage, people assume, and when they start looking at a word which they did not read in the particular passage, they assume it is alien. It is not alien words, it is alien idea. For example, the passage says, I remember the passage says evolutionary improbability. Right, that's what the passage is saying, evolutionary improbability. The option, you do not use the word improbability, but use the word implausibility. Now, plausible means highly probable, and implausible means highly improbable. So those two terms meant the same thing. And I could see again and again where many of you are falling for sort of a so if, let's say, if it is slightly disguised, it's reframed in a side manner, it's an issue. And some of the traps that people are falling into was very discernible. I think that it's not like it was very painfully created passage. Some of the passage difficult to read. So I think that learning how to identify those traps and understanding the passage would make a lot of sense. I think that it just went away. I think.
Shashank, PPT. Sorry.
Okay. Or this is your okay. Okay, you can start with this is just go up. Okay. Little up. Okay. So this, see, basically what happened in the first passage. Okay, let's start with the first passage. Okay, let's stick to question number 4. Let's look at question number 4. I'm just picking one question. Okay, which of the following is the most accurate statement about subjective truth? Right. So just go to the passage, the first paragraph. So the question says, what is subjective truth? Right. It's saying the subjective truth is opposed to factual truth in a way similar to opposition between hysteria and opposite neurosis. The first one is truth in the guise of a lie. And you are actually telling that there is a truth hidden in lie, and is later on explained, saying that history tells the truth in guise of a lie. In what they said is not literally true, but the lie expresses a false form and authentic complaint. So this is subjective truth. So to the lie, deep within the lie, there is some hidden truth involved. Now look at the options. Okay, look at
the question itself will have lots of subjective truth, I think.
So if you look, which of the following is accurate statement of subjective truth? The surface lie is a vehicle for a deeper truth. It's an extra restatement of it, no? Okay, look at option number 2. The form is honest, but the intention is deceptive. It is exactly the opposite. The form is deceptive, but the intention is honest. The third one, it appears deceptive the same way as factual truth. People have marked this one. When the passage clearly said is opposed to the opposed, both are opposed. It appears to be a lie because it is a falsehood. So if it is a question of, now it's a question of maybe interpretation of this, that particular sentence. So one was interpreting the sentence, and then a lot of other sort of issues were largely based on the fact that how sort of, if the option is slightly framed, not like how it is mentioned in the particular passage, but capture the same idea that people are going. Okay, so let's work on those. And when it comes to VA, just go to that earlier slide, no, of and then I'll come back to this passage. No, I think this one.
Slide.
The PPT.
PPT. So I think this is what I'll encourage all of you to do. Okay, with respect to reading comprehension, this is what I'll do. First, redo all the questions without what of time limit. Just do once again, whether you got it right or wrong. This time, spend little time in terms of understanding the passage. Okay, then compare your answers. Okay, and then before you look at solutions or even written word solution, you defend the correct answer given. So most of the time what happens is that you question the correct answer. How is it wrong? How is it? So I think that you have to be a teacher to yourself, defending like a teacher, defending the correct answer that is given. And teach yourself, at least put your thought in terms of why the correct answer is correct and why the one that I marked is incorrect. So do that engagement with it. and then look at the video solutions. And I will definitely ask you to look at the solutions and stuff. And if you look at the VA, and the VA started by saying that people after 2 years have to learn how to handle sentence placement. Okay. And I'll tell you which are the sentence placement questions. Okay. The sentence placement questions are, okay, I have it with me. Okay, why is not opening? No, just go back. Just stick to the slide once. Okay.
I said may have, Jijo. I didn't say
I'm just correcting what he's saying. I'm not saying that you got it wrong. Okay.
it was a subjective truth.
The sentence placement questions are question number 15, question number 16, and question number 23. Okay. Question number 15, question number 16, and question number 23. All three reds. Okay. They just sort of go. I'll tell you what people are doing with this. I think this clearly tells me. I think it tells me that people are not, at least a majority. It could be something else. I'm just making a guess, making general guess. People have assumed VA does not exist. I don't think that people have looked at, let's say, past years VA questions or really fought and create a process. Just open the paper once. No, I'll quickly go through the VA question 15, 16, and 23. Just take 15, maybe. 15. Okay. The sentence it is therefore. मतलब कहाँ जाएगा? Everybody has made an assumption. सीधा उठा के option last में डाल दो. Because therefore has come. But basically the place for this therefore is option number 1. And all you have to do is use simple logic. Look at first sentence. It says we usually use the expression I see to express understanding in many ways regard the sense of vision as the most important. We say when I say I understand something, we say I see. So it's saying that the expression I see to express understanding and in many ways regard sense of vision is most important. And look at the next sentence. Think, for example.